Hello, and welcome to another session on using Blender for video editing. Here we're going to talk about how to use proxies to improve the playback performance of Blender. What are proxies? They are basically lower quality, lower resolution versions of your input media. And how do you do it? It's a two-step process. First, for every single one of your movie strips or image strips, you have to create a proxy for it. And then you have to enable it inside of the preview pane. So we'll go through that step by step. Here you can see I've already got Blender's video editor set up with a single movie strip with a very high resolution, well, by my standards. This is well above full HD, and I've already got that set up here as well inside the scene settings. If I try to play this right now, it won't work very well. So I'm going to hit the play button, and you can see we're going at 9-10 frames per second, whereas it ought to be closer to 30 frames per second. And before we go any further, I should point out that with my computer, I can actually play this video at the full speed inside of, for example, VLC. It's just with Blender, for whatever reason, it isn't capable of playing this very well at all. But we can make that happen using proxies. So let's get started. I'm going to stop this. And the first thing to do, as I mentioned, is to create the proxy. So with the video strip selected, you scroll all the way to the bottom of the properties and check this box that's labeled Proxy/Timecode. That opens up a bunch of features, so we'll scroll down a bit more. Most of these options we can ignore. We can really just go straight to the button that builds the proxy, but let me quickly explain. These options here are more or less about where you want to place the proxy file. The important ones really is this set of 4 options here. The size of the proxy, whether you want it to be 25% of the original dimensions, or 50, or 75, or 100%. Not sure why you would need that one, but I typically use 25%, and that's the default, so I'll just keep that checked as so. And then the final step for the first phase is just to create it, which you can do by clicking this button that says Rebuild Proxy and Timecode Indices. So I'm going to start that now, and then we'll skip ahead to once it's finished. And just like with rendering, you can see it does show you a progress bar, so you have an idea of how long it's going to take for it to finish. Okay, so we're going to jump over now. And we're back. So Blender has finished creating the proxy file, and I forgot to mention before the skip, it creates it in a subdirectory of where your original source material is. So for example, here this is the original file. It creates it in a folder called BL Proxy, and for every single video file that you're creating a proxy for, there will be a folder here, and if you go in within that folder, then you can see that's the file that got created, and there'll be one per proxy, 25, 50, 75, 100. Okay, so now phase 1 is done. Phase 2, enable proxies. So to do that, it's within the preview pane, which is I've got here. We have to go into the properties of this, and there's a few ways of going through it. One is to press the shortcut key, which is N. Another is to click on this little plus sign over here, but you can also go to the View menu and go to Properties here. So I'm going to that. There we go. So it pops up. I'm going to stretch this out a bit so we can read. The option here is right here where it says Proxy Render Size. Initially it's set to Scene Render Size, the default, which means not using a proxy. Click that and you get a bunch of options, and to enable the proxies, just select the proxy size that you've created. So I created a 25% proxy, so I'm going to pick proxy size 25%. That's it. So now I can go back to the View menu and click Properties to make that go away. And now, watch, as you see, so remember from before, it was running at about 10 frames per second. If I click the play button now, there we go. Now it's showing in the white most of the time, hovering around 30, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So as you can see, that's how you can make use of proxies, and it will make things run smoother. Still maybe not perfectly smooth, depending on all the stuff that you want to do after that, like doing a bunch of transitions and other effects, but much better than without proxies. There are a few other things that we'll have to talk about in a different segment. For example, how to work with transparent images, which is a topic definitely for later when we start talking about how to render out to PNG image sets when you start doing green screening and things like that. But for now, this is essentially the basics of it. So thanks, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.